It's undoubtable that Conor McGregor's influence on the UFC has been the biggest. From becoming the first fighter to hold UFC belts in 2 weight divisions simultaneously, to shattering every record as the biggest box office attraction, he has cemented himself as one of the biggest names in combat sports history. But recently, a pattern is beginning to emerge, and it's at one that needs looking, because it's at one that shows a fighter not just interested in glory, but also in control. Facing McGregor isn't just about the challenge or the legacy, it's mostly about the enormous financial rewards that comes with it. And McGregor is acutely aware of his influence, aware that his name alone is a golden ticket to extravagant wealth, and he is an expert at using this knowledge to his advantage. By keeping fighters in a constant state of pursuit, chasing the unattainable McGregor dream, while he continues to live in the spotlight. This is the tale of Conor McGregor's tactics of manipulation. In the world of mixed martial arts, a call-out is more than just a challenge. It is an implicit contract between 2 warriors seeking glory. But in McGregor's case, it's often part of a broader game. He understands the magnitude of his name. To fight McGregor is to stand at the precipice of greatness, not merely for the prestige, but for the financial windfall that inevitably follows. And McGregor knows precisely how to wield this power. With just hinting at a possible bout with a certain fighter, McGregor instantly puts them in the spotlight. Fighters like Chandler, Usman, Masvidal, and many others have all been teased with the promise of a fight and went after it, only to find themselves chasing mirage rather than the man himself. Because time and time again, these promises fail to materialize. Conor McGregor's tactics are rooted in a profound understanding of power dynamics within the sport. By making fighters, many of whom are stars in their own right, chase him, McGregor asserts his dominance. It is a calculated power move, one that reinforces his status as the ultimate prize in the UFC. And by allowing speculation to flourish without committing to a fight, McGregor ensures that his name remains at the forefront of headlines without ever having to actually fight. One of the most blatant examples of McGregor's manipulative tactics was during the build-up to UFC 246. McGregor's comeback fight against Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone was monumental. But it wasn't just the fight against Cerrone that had everyone talking. It was the way McGregor set the stage for future matchups, dangling big names like Masvidal and Usman. Usman, the welterweight champion, and Masvidal, who seemed to be the biggest star in the company at the time, decided to seize the opportunity. When the night of the fight arrived, Masvidal showed up wearing a Versace robe that McGregor had worn before during his build-up to his boxing match against Floyd Mayweather. Him and Kamaru sit just a few seats away from each other, both fighters hoping to be next in line, hoping that McGregor would call them out after what many expected to be a decisive victory over Cerrone, only to once again be left hanging. Instead of calling out either of them, McGregor said nothing. The post-fight speech was an anticlimax for both of them. He made vague comments about being back, but he never directly addressed the 2 potential opponents sitting only a few feet away from him. It was a classic manipulative move, a tease without a payoff, which resulted in ridicule from their fellow UFC fighter Leon Edwards, who said that it was embarrassing for both of them to be begging for Conor's attention. With a brilliant power move, Conor McGregor made Masvidal look minuscule in his presence when it comes to stardom, and demolished the momentum that Masvidal had been building up for a year. And with that, the talk about him being the biggest star in the UFC was basically over. And for that, Masvidal can only blame himself. Usman, on the other hand, decided not to give up. Nothing would stop him from chasing the bout with McGregor, as he tweeted about a fight between them and pinned it for months after, hoping that the payday he dreamed of would finally come, just to once again be left behind. All the stories and names mentioned seem trivial and insignificant when compared to the most tragic victim in the McGregor's play, Michael Chandler. For 2 years, McGregor masterfully manipulated Chandler and used him as a pawn in his grander scheme to keep his name alive in the sport's limelight, a truth apparent to everyone but Chandler himself. For more than 2 years, Chandler vigorously pursued McGregor, believing he was on the verge of the fight that would define his UFC career, even agreeing to coach alongside him on The Ultimate Fighter. The UFC audience was promised a fight, a clash between two of the sport's most exciting athletes. But as the months stretched on, it became clear that McGregor was in no hurry to fulfill this promise. Chandler, like many before him, had been drawn into McGregor's orbit. His ambitions were used to serve McGregor's larger narrative. For him, the fight itself was never necessary. The chase was more than enough. In truth, McGregor's greatest fight today is not inside the octagon, but against irrelevance. It's not difficult to see that the sport has left McGregor behind, and that reclaiming his spot as champion was a ship that had sailed a long time ago. The only way for McGregor to combat this truth is through his obvious deception. Knowing how much they are willing to chase for a chance, Conor can sit back comfortably, aware that the mere possibility of fighting him keeps these fighters bringing up his name constantly, while he collects the prize of always staying in the headlines, even when his actual fighting career appears to fade into the background. Right now, the name Conor McGregor no longer represents a fighter. It has become a brand. And in order for that brand to survive and thrive, he cannot afford not to be talked about or chased. And Conor is well aware of that, because for someone who thrived on arrogance and narcissism, being forgotten and irrelevant is a death sentence. But with each unfulfilled promise of a fight, the shine starts to fade. Fighters, once willing to play the game, are now growing wary. The truth, once hidden behind the brilliance of his persona, is slowly emerging. McGregor is not the inevitable force he once seemed, but rather a master illusionist, weaving expectations with no intention of delivering. And as the spotlight shifts to new champions, McGregor may find that the empire he built on manipulation and mystery has crumbled, leaving behind only the shadow of what might have been